Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now, in this video, usually I give dialogue and I do talking and explain the different clips. I'm not going to do too much talking in this video because with everything going on, all the hoopla behind tariffs and taxes, I realize I get a lot of messages from people on all the social platforms that say, Brian, I don't really understand tariffs. Or, I thought taxes have been around since the United States was formed. And when they realized that taxes didn't start until 1913, and that tariffs had been around, since the inception of the country, they really trip out. Now, there had been taxes on things prior to 1913, but when it became nationalized, that was in 1913 under Woodrow Wilson. But again, I'm not going to do too much talking. So in this video, I'm going to show you a brief short video explaining income taxes, okay, how that came into play. And then another short clip that is explaining, it is simplified to such a manner that an 8th grader can watch it and have a firm grasp on tariffs, how they help and how they work. And the purpose of this video is because I'm sick and tired of watching so many good people walk around terrified, waking up afraid every day. People that I know that are invested in the markets thinking that Trump is causing their investments to go down, but it's not. Understanding that Wall Street lives for today and makes money for today. Wall Street doesn't make money thinking about 10 years down the road. Theirs is earn instant. And look at where Wall Street led us. Remember the 2012 mortgage crisis, where we let Wall Street monitor the mortgage game and we're expecting them all to be ethical, and it buried the country. We're not going through that again, trusting Wall Street. So President Trump is focused on Main Street. And what Main Street is, that's for the average worker. What he's doing is creating one of the greatest industrial booms the country's ever seen. Unlike what FDR did, and we'll get into him as far as his part on the taxes and his things that he implemented were super progressive, but it's just crazy. I won't get into that. And versus what Trump has got going on. So I'm not going to talk too much. Like I said, let me get into this clip and let you watch it. And spoiler alert, if you came to watch this video because you're looking for drama, cursing, and all that stuff, you're not going to find it. But if you came because you want to watch and enrich your mental Rolodex up to know what's going on, to improve your ability to vote, who it is that you support, and to help your family members be more calm and at ease, and even show this to them to help them gain an understanding, this is for you. But let's get into it.
On April 15th, 1865, President Lincoln died. He was shot the night before in Ford's Theater. On April 15th, 1912, the Titanic sank. It struck an iceberg the night before. In 1954, April 15th became the deadline for income tax returns. Though the Constitution banned a federal income tax, Article 1, Section 9, Lincoln passed an emergency income tax to pay for the Civil War. It was repealed in 1872. An income tax was attempted in 1895, but the Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional in Pollock versus Farmers Loan. In 1913, with World War I threatening, Woodrow Wilson promoted the 16th Amendment, which was a 1% tax on the top 1% richest people. In 1942, with World War II, Franklin Roosevelt passed the greatest tax bill in American history. John F. Kennedy stated, April 20th, 1961, in meeting the demands of war finance, the individual income tax moved from a selective tax imposed on the wealthy to the means by which the great majority of our citizens participate in paying. In 1988, President Reagan said, I believe God did give mankind unlimited gifts to invent, produce, and create. And for that reason, it would be wrong for governments to devise a tax structure that suppresses those gifts.
Now, did you notice that all the Democrat presidents were all about taxes? And they showed John Kennedy, and I hope this doesn't offend some people, but I researched this stuff. John Kennedy was still a Democrat, and he was a progressive. Now, he's enamored in the minds of the people because his life was taken. But in reality and in truth, he was increasing taxes and imposing stuff and was doing a whole lot of things behind the scenes that some people didn't like. Now, history is always much better to us a lot of times than what we actually done, not taking anything away from them. But when it came to this taxes game, all of these Democrat presidents decided they wanted to take it from the people rather than take it from the other countries. Now, you heard them speak about Woodrow Wilson and when he nationalized the income tax. Initially, it was only supposed to be on the top 1%, and it was only supposed to be 1%. And see, this is how progressives and how the Democrats work. They make you think, oh, it's only for the elite. It's only for them. let's look now. As you heard and you saw, within 45 years, everybody's paying the income tax, and it's no longer 1%. Matter of fact, it's all the way up to 6-7%. And then people said, hey, that's a great idea. We should institute a state one too. Now, the act that they spoke about, which was the Underwood Act, I'll show you that right here. If you enjoyed this video and you like the content, do me a solid. Hit that like button, because I will never ask you for a cash app or a super chat. You hitting that like button, it is currency, because it helps spread the video out there. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. On the Real Politics Podcast, that's what we do. We keep it real about politics. So once you subscribe, hit the notification bell and select all. That way, you'll be notified when I upload new videos. The Underwood Act, which was by Woodrow Wilson, 1912 election. And the Underwood Act, what it did is it eliminated tariffs. It literally removed tariffs on other countries. That was in 1912. Then he instituted nationalized income tax. So as opposed to having our foreign partners pay money, they decided to just take it from the citizens. There was a lot more of it, and they enjoyed that, and it was a lot easier. Now, what would conform our government to say, you know what, we don't want to penalize these foreign countries. We don't want to do that. As a matter of fact, we'll just take it from our own citizens. And as you see, in 1912, Wilson, the Democratic presidential nominee, strongly favored a progressive income tax and a reduction in tariffs. So if you pay attention, man, that word progressive, taxes, and having pity on foreigners and penalizing citizens has been around. Now, remember, that was called the Underwood Act. Now, in this video, this is going to explain tariffs and gives an excellent breakdown. So check this out. Hope you enjoy it.
There are 3 reasons why a government might choose to impose a tariff: revenue, protecting domestic businesses, and as a political incentive against another country. Revenue is the most straightforward of the 3. The government wants to collect taxes to fund its own initiatives, so a higher tax on imported goods makes for more government revenue, especially if the tariffs aren't high enough to force companies to shift to US-based production. But if the taxes are severe enough that domestic companies consider a change, then the tariff might have been imposed to help protect domestic workers and manufacturers. The rise of economic globalization has led to a lot of U.S. industries, from tech to textiles, outsourcing their manufacturing work to other countries, often in Asia. This not only encourages unethical labor practices like sweatshops to keep the manufacturing costs low, it also ends up affecting workers and companies in the U.S. Take, for example, the automotive industry that was once the lifeblood of Detroit, Michigan. Outsourcing automotive manufacturing, the move toward automation, and the increasing popularity of foreign cars moving into the U.S. auto market had a ruinous effect on D-Town. Theoretically, imposing stronger tariffs would have helped both companies and consumers support domestic automakers and prevent their jobs from being outsourced overseas. And then there's the strategic political element. Tariffs might be a tool to help address a trade imbalance, also known as a trade deficit. This is a situation where a company is importing more than it's exporting, meaning it's perhaps built an over-reliance on foreign goods. However, trade deficits aren't necessarily a terrible thing. The U.S. has actually run on a trade deficit since the 1970s, and the impacts of this rarely have a considerable effect against the average consumer. But still, if a government wants to address a trade deficit manually, then tariffs are a pretty good start. Making it more costly and inconvenient to import parts and goods encourages consumers to shop local when they can, giving exports a chance to keep up while imports falter. But this is an internal political strategy. What if you want to use tariffs to affect other countries with economic leverage? Tariffs can be used punitively, somewhat like a less severe approach to an economic sanction where trade with a sanctioned country is outright forbidden. Increasing tariffs against a particular country's imported goods can hurt them economically, and this can be used as a bargaining chip for wider trade or political negotiations. We've often seen this between the US and China from 2018 to 2020. So that is what a tariff is.
So as you saw, the Democrats, they try to freak everybody out and put everybody in panic, when in reality, that's how America became wealthy, was because of tariffs. The income tax was not instituted until we had Woodrow Wilson, who was also his right-hand man was Edwin House, who was the mouthpiece for the Rothschilds, an elite banking family out of Europe, okay, and who wanted to bring the Federal Reserve Bank into America, which had been rejected and rejected and rejected. And then Woodrow Wilson was the very first president who was able to bring in a central bank. We call it the Federal Reserve, but yet it has nothing to do with our federal government. It's a private centralized banking system that literally has a huge control over our economy. And so the next time you hear people wanting to make you panic about tariffs, tariffs are a positive thing when applied like the president is using it. It's not a negative thing. It's not a penalty. It's to incentivize fairness and also to boost domestic companies and give them a shot. If a Japanese company can make a product, not have to pay out any wages because there are people working a sweatshop, of course it could be more expensive than an American company who pays their employees fair wages. So we have to create more lanes for Americanized companies to win. We got to get behind our domestic products, even if it means new names. That's the biggest thing, is name recognition, because there's a lot of products that are just as good as the other ones out there. People don't have to have an iPhone that's made out of China, but they choose to because of the brand recognition. But hey, I'm not going to hold you too long. I just wanted to jump in and just share this quick history lesson on the income tax and on tariffs. So you realize literally it's just been within the last 120 years or so that the income tax have became a nationalized thing signed into law by Woodrow Wilson. And prior to that, it was about tariffs. The biggest issue with tariffs before is that, certain politicians wanted to lower tariffs for other countries. And again, that's when palms, just like now, were getting greased. Why would any politician here be concerned about the economic power of another country that we're doing business with? Why would you want to make it to where they screw us on a trade deal? The only way somebody will be cool with that is if it's something beneficial for them. And I think we all know, just how possible that is. But hey, listen, if you watched this far, I really do appreciate you hanging in there watching this video. I hope it helps you. If you haven't already liked the video, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, leave a comment, share the content. Other than that, I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.